Senior White House officials condemn Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump's proposal to ban Muslims from entering the United States. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu names Yossi Cohen the head of the National Security Council as the 12th head of the Mossad. And Eagles of Death Metal, the band performing when the Bataclan massacre took place, made a special appearance last night in Paris. Good morning. You're watching I-24 News here with this morning's headlines. Senior White House officials lined up Monday to condemn Republican presidential frontrunner Donald Trump's proposal to ban Muslims from entering the United States. White House spokesman Josh Earnest called Trump's outburst cynical, saying it was contrary to U.S. values and interests. Trump on Monday called for a ban on Muslims entering the United States in the most dramatic response by a candidate to last week's California shootings. ABC News has more.
We're going to build a wall. It will be a real wall.
If you thought Donald Trump could not out-Trump himself,
Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims.
With that, he has done it again. That's right, Trump calling for a total ban on Muslims coming to America.
Our country cannot be the victim of horrendous attacks by people that believe only in jihad. They have no respect for human life.
This less than 24 hours after President Obama called for more tolerance for Muslims following the San Bernardino massacre.
It's our responsibility to reject proposals that Muslim Americans should somehow be treated differently.
Trump's proposal condemned by the nation's largest Muslim organization.
His ideas are not just unconstitutional, they are un-American. Have we learned anything from history, Mr. Trump?
It is also sparking a fiery debate on both sides. Jeb Bush calling Trump unhinged, Governor Chris Christie saying this is ridiculous, and Hillary Clinton tweeting in part, this is reprehensible. The stunning call coincidentally comes on the same day new Iowa polls show Senator Ted Cruz on the rise, perhaps in part by his answer for ISIS.
We will carpet bomb them into oblivion.
Meanwhile, investigators found out that the suspected couple who killed 14 people and injured 21 others in the deadly San Bernardino shooting had participated in target practice before the attack. The FBI said this on Monday. In the latest revelation, Fox News reported that a $28,500 deposit was made to Syed Farouk's bank account from webbank.com, some 2 weeks before he and his wife Tashfeen Malik carried out the San Bernardino massacre. Farouk, a U.S.-born citizen who worked for the county public health department, and his wife, a Pakistan national, were killed in a face-off with police hours after the attack.
We do have evidence that both of these subjects did some participated in target practice in some ranges within the metro area or within the Los Angeles area. That target practice in one occasion was done within days of this event. Many of you had concerns, or questions rather, about did the female radicalize the male in this case. The answer is we still do not know, but I will say this. As the investigation has progressed, we have learned and believe that both subjects were radicalized and have been for quite some time.
The Israeli Prime Minister has announced that his national security advisor, Yossi Cohen, will be the next chief of the Mossad intelligence agency. Cohen, 54 years old, served in the Mossad for over 30 years and was deputy head of the agency until he was appointed head of the National Security Council in 2013. He will be replacing the current chief, Tamir Pardo, next month after 5 years in office. The announcement follows weeks of speculation over the identity of the new appointment. However, Cohen, who is considered extremely close to the prime minister, was tipped the leading candidate for the post.
The Mossad is an operational body and an intelligence body which sometimes also paves the way to international relations, specifically with states with which we have no official ties.
A U.S. official pointed fingers at Russia as the force that likely carried out strikes in Syria Monday, which killed 3 government troops. This despite widespread blame on the U.S.-led coalition fighting the Islamic State. Syria's ally Russia is waging an air campaign in support of President Bashar Assad and has been striking in Deir el-Zor. While Russia's air raids have hit some Islamic State targets, the U.S. says most of them have hit other foreign-backed rebel groups. After months of fighting in a civil war that has killed nearly 6,000 people, the UN Special Envoy to Yemen announced that the warring sides will begin peace talks on December 15th. I-24 News' Danny Swibel brings us the latest on Yemen.
United Nations envoy Ismail Oud Sheikh said peace talks between Yemen's warring sides will open in Switzerland on December 15th to try to end the 9-month conflict. It is the hopes the government recently returned from exile, backed by a Saudi-led coalition carrying out airstrikes on Yemen, and Houthi rebels will observe a humanitarian ceasefire so as to create a, quote, conducive environment for the negotiations.
We have been strongly encouraging the parties to work on confidence-building measures, including implementing a ceasefire, releasing of prisoners, and facilitating the delivery of humanitarian supplies that would constitute positive steps in the effort to lessen tensions and ease the path to a peaceful settlement to the conflict in Yemen.
Yemen's President Abdelrahman Mansour Hadi met with cabinet ministers in Aden on Sunday in the wake of a car bombing claimed by the Islamic State that killed the city's governor, General Jafar Mohammed Saad, and members of his entourage earlier in the day. The local Yemen branch of the Islamic State has stepped up operations since the outbreak of the civil war in Yemen, emerging as a forceful rival to al-Qaeda on the Arabian Peninsula, the main militant group in the country in recent years. And with the continued fighting between the two sides, it seems likely IS will surely continue to benefit.
Ukraine must fight corruption and bring an end to a culture of impunity, U.S. Vice President Joe Biden said on Monday after meeting Prime Minister Arseniy Yatsenyuk in Kiev. Biden's comments came as he announced new financial aid of $190 million to help the country fight corruption and streamline its bureaucracy. The U.S. government has given Kiev $760 million in direct economic assistance since pro-Western parties took office in Ukraine more than a year ago. Biden is set to deliver remarks before Ukraine's parliament later today.
The President and I and the Secretary of State have had countless encounters in person and on the telephone with our leaders, our fellow leaders around the world, particularly here in Europe, to make sure the international community stands and holds Russia accountable for the actions against Ukraine. And if they do not meet their obligations, and you do, to increase the price Russia has to pay for their illegal actions internationally.
Eagles of Death Metal, the band which was performing at the Bataclan when the Paris attacks took place on November 13th, made an emotional, powerful appearance at a U2 concert in the city last night. The Californian rock band gave a rendition of Patti Smith's People Have the Power before performing their own I Love You All the Time. Security was beefed up at Monday's concert as the country remains under a state of emergency.
Nothing left except to introduce you to some people whose lives will forever be a part of the city of Paris. These are our brothers, our fellow troubadours. They were robbed of their stage 3 weeks ago, and we would like to offer them ours tonight. Would you welcome the Eagles of Death Metal?
Well, I think, as Bruno says, it's a very good therapy for the band. It was the first time, one more time in Paris after a few weeks after the terrorist attack. And I think it's very good for us and for there. And well, it was a very emotional moment for me.
It was pretty strange because the bad things happened 3 weeks ago, and to see them alive, making rock and roll, it was kind of strange.
And that wraps up our news bulletin. More headlines in just 20 minutes. Thank you for watching. United States. White House spokesman Josh Earnest called Trump's outburst cynical, saying it was contrary to U.S. values and interests. Trump on Monday called for a ban on Muslims. Good morning. You're watching I-24 News, here with this morning's headlines. Senior White House officials lined up Monday to condemn Republican presidential frontrunner Donald Trump's proposal to ban Muslims from entering the United States. And Eagles of Death Metal, the band performing when the Bataclan massacre took place, made a special appearance last night in Paris. Senior White House officials condemn Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump's proposal to ban Muslims from entering the United States. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu names Yossi Cohen the head of the National Security Council as the 12th head of the Mossad.